medication, he's off of all of these medication, and he doesn't have to take any more insulin. It's amazing. We have got to get ourselves to realize that God made these bodies self-healing, totally self-healing. We just need to stop our bad habits, and we do right, you get righteous results.
Well, you know, God is very forgiving, and the body is very forgiving. And when we get all these sicknesses, that is the consequences for our disobedience. And once we're ready to obey the word and submit to the word and submit to what God is telling us to do, the body will receive it and forgive us, and it will heal. I remember when I couldn't live without sugar. Now I can't even stand the thought of sugar, because once your body forgives you, then you want to honor that and you want to continue in that. I would not ever consider putting up a liter of root beer in my mouth. It would never happen again.
I used to be a salt junkie. I never was too much on sugar, but salt. My mother-in-law used to say to me, Berlina, why do you put so much salt in your food? And I think I just always, my mother put salt in everything she cooked. We had all the beans, all the greens, everything had pork in it. And I even used to like to eat lemons. I'd eat whole lemons, and I would just load them up with salt. Put salt on watermelon. I had become a salt junkie. And salt junkie leads to extreme dryness, dry hair, dry scalp, dry elbows, everything. So my challenge was to get rid of the salt. But once I began to drink a lot more water, it was easier. But I just crave salt. Now the salt has the nastiest taste to me. If I taste too much salt, I feel like I'm going to become ill. And once upon a time, I could just eat it. And I tell people all the time, I can't eat that because it has too much salt, because you've been reborn, so to speak, and you can't do the same thing. I can't eat real greasy stuff anymore either.
Well, there's consequences for all of these things. It's not so much as you can't, but as it's more that you respect your body.
Yes,
you're respecting your temple. Once we get this wisdom, when we come to these workshops that you're offering on Mondays at 7:30, and we get together with the support group and we listen to each other's testimonies and we find out what's going on with the human body, it only behooves us to make a change.
And you know, with as the new year is beginning to come in, I made a determination in my body and in my mind that the year 2012, you know, they've been saying 2012, the world is going to end. You know, that's what the Mayans have said. And I said, well, why don't I just do this? Why don't I pretend in my mind that this is the last year that the Creator is going to give me to be the best that I can be His perfect child, a child of God, one that He'll say, wow, my child is looking good, acting perfectly, functioning well. I would like to do that. So that's my goal for the year, to be the very best child of God that I can be. I want to be it physically, mentally, and spiritually. And that's kind of a big thing, because before I knew I should do it, but I was kind of putting it off. I could do it next year, or well, I don't have to do such a great job. But it's become very imperative with me that I really stop putting off until tomorrow what I want to do right now. Right now.
Well, procrastination is how we have lost half our generation. They have procrastinated on doing what it takes to get well. They'll say, I'll drink water later, or I'll stop eating all this fast food when I get 30, and they never see 30.
And you know, the other thing is, when you procrastinate, it becomes such a habit that other things begin to get in the way. For example, you say, I really want to do this. But then after a while, you say, I want to do this, and I want to do it so long that you lose the ability to follow through, or it's so weak. You know, it's like this muscle. If I don't walk for months and months and months, pretty soon it's going to be hard for me to even move and walk. So it's true with this willpower. If you keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, pretty soon people say to me, oh, I want to do this, but I just can't seem to have the willpower. I can't do it. I used to be like that. I remember when I used to smoke cigarettes. It was a very filthy habit. Every day I would say, well, I'm going to give it up. I'm going to give it up. I'm going to give it up. Then I read a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And this book said, start right now. Start by being there, which reminds you is the Bible. Speak of it as if it's already been done. And I started telling myself, I don't smoke anymore. I gave it up. I gave it up. I don't smoke anymore. So once I started telling myself I didn't smoke anymore, I couldn't smoke anymore. So now I'm telling myself that I'm going to be perfectly behaved in my living, in every way that I can. I've never had that as a goal before. I was always like, you know how you go to school and you're like a C student when you could be an A? I say like I was like a C plus in life. I knew what B was, and maybe I did know what A was, but now I want to be an A plus student in terms of being the best I can be.
Well, I'm looking forward to the time when the churches and the ministers get the message of saving the church, because the temple and the teaching of taking care of your body begins in the church. And then sometimes we leave church and they have all these chicken fried dinners and macaroni and cheese and all this stuff, and you've heard this good sermon and they teach you about taking care of your body, and then you leave church on a suicide meal.
Or sometimes you'll go and they'll teach you about how God will heal you and how God wants to heal you, and that everything you need, God will do. And then as soon as that's over, you go downstairs and begin to do all this food. The place that really gets me is when we have funerals. You go to a funeral, now somebody's died from diabetes or high blood pressure or something like that. And as soon as the funeral is over, they have a repast. And what do they serve? More of the very same diet that killed that person. I remember when my mother died, my mother had a big funeral, and she said to me, Berlina, when the people come to the repast, I don't care what they bring. Don't say anything to them. Let them eat whatever they bring. So I had to sit there and watch people eat stuff smothered in gravy, but I didn't say anything. They were in this church. This was a holiness church, and people were eating everything they could. Tons of cake, they had pop, they had coffee, everything that's not good. It reminds me of my daughter-in-law when they used to do birthday parties. You go to the birthday party and you're celebrating. My child is now 7 years old, and what do you feed the child to eat?
Cake, and the icing is made with shortening, and shortening is lard.
You got cake, you got
ice cream, candy.
Okay, what else?
I don't know.
How about hot dogs? They used to have hot dogs, potato chips, all the things that we know.
So they won't make 8.
They won't. That's what I say. So what we do is we say to a child, I love you, I love you. I'm celebrating your birthday, but we show them that we love them by feeding them the very foods that are going to make them unhealthy or kill them.
Well, at the death of one of my relatives, when we did the repast, they made an awesome mistake and put me over it, and they had fruit and water and fruit, wild vegetables and water, and people were going, did they forget to bring the food to the repast? I said, oh, we're in the Garden of Eden, eat up and enjoy. It was more water than you couldn't see, and I had chlorophyll for those who wanted pop.
Well, that's the future. The future is going to be a time where we're going to get away from eating the foods that are detrimental. We're going to get away from junk, because this is one thing I can't get. You eat junk, call it garbage, and eat it anyway. So when you do something like what you did, which is perfectly healthy for people, they're not impressed.
They were so upset.
It reminds me of the days when I used to go to the clubs. And when I would go in the clubs, once I began to have more consciousness, I would get a big glass of water, and then I would have the bartender to put in a cherry, a slice of lemon, and maybe an olive or whatever was in it, so I looked like I had something fancy. He put it up there and but I was drinking water. People would say, well, why are you paying all this money to drink water? I'm saying, why should I pay money to drink something that's going to poison me?
Absolutely.
I'd rather drink the water. So I would do that all the time. I've learned how to really, really, really enjoy that. I have my little glass of water, and at home when I drink water, I'll put it in maybe a little wine glass, and then maybe I'll put a cherry in the bottom or whatever, or a piece of lemon, and just drink it like that. I love it. I love it.
And the funny thing about it is everything is very plain. When you go to buy wine, the store says wine and spirits. They're letting you know you're buying a spirit, something going to make you act stupid, feel stupid, and destroy your body. And we buy it anyway.
I never even thought of that before.
Yeah, it says spirits on the store. They don't even lie to you. You come here to buy a spirit that's going to kill you.
Now, if we could just get people to realize the amount of water, I have found that you can really make a tremendous difference in your health with just water.
Absolutely.
If you drink enough of it and plenty of clean water. And the other thing that I find is just breathing. Absolutely breathing. We try to teach people simple techniques, don't cost money, things that they can do in their own home and things that they can share, because we as a people are really courting doom as far as I can see. We're at at the last pinnacle if we don't do something about this right now. We got to change. And it's scary because our children now begin to feel as though they need to do everything to kill themselves. They're even killing each other. It's like killing has become the pattern. You kill yourself in order to be great, I guess. That's all I can say.
And when I was a principal, I remembered one of the first things I did in the underachieving school was to go into the cafeteria and take out all the donuts and all the stuff. The kids would come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the school system would give them donuts, chocolate milk, and bread and butter and jelly. That's breakfast. Carbs, carbs, sugar, sugar, sugar. Then they want to know why when they got upstairs they couldn't read. Well, they were sleeping. They were on a sugar high. Then when they come down for lunch, what do you get for lunch? You're going to get pizza, which is carbs, and you got cheese on it, and then you got the meat. And then with the pizza, you get the French fries, and you get that. And then you get chocolate milk again.
I'm trying to figure out what it is. Sometimes I just want to stand on the corner with a big sign and shout, with a big megaphone and shout, let's wake up, let's do better, people. Let's stop killing ourselves. We have, I believe our people are extremely gifted spiritually. I really believe that. But how can you really utilize your spiritual gifts when you put in garbage in the temple?
And that's why the children couldn't read. Once I got that nasty food out of my school lunchroom and mandated that they were going to get fresh vegetables and fresh fruit, our scores shot up over the skies. They said, oh, how did the kids learn to read? What did Mama Hawk do? Mama Hawk changed the diet. Then they were awake. So when the teachers were teaching, they were awake and they could hear it. When you're giving them the sugar at 12 and then you're teaching math in the afternoon, sure the math scores are going to go down because they're sleepy. They don't know what you're talking about.
And you can see that the children are used to it because sometimes I just go outside and pick up the garbage in front of our store up there on East 82nd Street. I pick up the garbage and I can see what our children have been eating. We got all kinds of bags, candy wrappers, cans of pop, alcohol bottles. This is what's out here. This is what is the evidence of what they're doing on the street. You don't see a lot of apple skins and you don't see a whole lot of orange peelings. You see a lot of garbage out there. And that's what our children are consuming. And we have a tremendous job that we have to do. We have done so much wrong. And like I said, we start as early as the birthday party telling children, okay, I love you, now I'm gonna kill you.
Well, I like when I was driving down South Chicago, I noticed that school has a garden. And they're teaching their children how to grow fresh fruit and fresh vegetables. And they go out there and they pick the stuff and they bring it in and they prepare their lunches. Right there on South Chicago, that South Shore Drill.
Yeah.
Those children are really on the ball.
I think it's called Comer. I think that's
right. That
well,
Comer School. And they have a garden out there for them. They will grow up and know how to grow their own food.
Well, I was so happy to see that. And I was also happy to see our First Lady setting an example and beginning to get us back. We got a long way to go, but we can come. Can you imagine the day here in Chicago where we will have plenty of food that you can just go right out in your yard or right out on the street and pick it?
Right.
I never could understand why can't we have apple trees in the park and cherry trees? Why can't we have those just as well? People who may have a budget shortage, they can just go get their food right out there. We've got to change our minds.
It would certainly reduce crime.
It would certainly, oh, wow, yeah. Why would
people that are stealing food to feed their family could feed them from just the gardens.
And if you begin to have this clarity of mind, we'll be able to see it. Well, I'd like to say as we begin to end this has been a wonderful experience, Mama Hawk. It's just always good to be with you because you have such dramatic ideas and you have made such an impact and a change with yourself. Did you tell people what you started with and what you weigh now?
I started weighing over 515 pounds and I've lost 293 pounds and I have 100 to go.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I know
it's all from changing the way you eat and serving size, because even though we eat vegetarian and even though we eat raw, if you eat the whole pot of raw greens, you're going to have gas and you're going to still gain weight. Everything has to be done in moderation.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for being with us. This has been a wonderful experience at the Higher Learning Network. And